Listen, darling, there's a difference between being kind and being a doormat. Too many of us are out here giving and getting crumbs in return. Why? Because we've been conditioned to believe that being nice is a virtue above all else. If you're always available, you become dispensable. That truth hits hard, but it's one that needs to be felt deep in your bones. The more accessible you make yourself to everyone around you, the co-workers, the friends who only call when they need something, the people who expect you to bend at every moment, the less they value your presence. Why? Because when something is always there, it's taken for granted. When you answer every message instantly, rearrange your schedule to accommodate everyone else's chaos, and smile even when you're being walked over, you send the message, loud and clear, that your time doesn't matter, that your energy is limitless, and that your needs come second. And people will believe you. They'll start to act like you're just there, a fixture, always ready to help, always saying yes, always easy. But you weren't born to be easy. You weren't born to be anyone's emotional sponge or free therapist or backup plan. You were born to carry your own magic, and that magic dims every time you ignore your worth just to be liked or accepted. People respect what they have to earn. Think about it. When you have to work for something, when you have to put in effort, when access is limited, the value rises. It's human nature, and you're no different. Your time, your energy, your kindness, your brilliance, it all becomes more precious when you stop handing it out like party favors. When you're always friendly, always agreeable, you start to shrink yourself. You begin to say, I'll be what you need me to be, instead of asking, what do I need? And before you know it, you're so far down the list of your own priorities that you can't even recognize yourself. You've been so busy being nice, being sweet, being that your own voice is now a whisper in your own life. That's the danger of overavailability. It erodes your power from the inside out. People begin to assume you'll never say no. They expect you to stay late, to give more, to give up your time, your space, your boundaries. And guess what? The more you allow that, the more they stop seeing you. They stop hearing you. You become background noise to their main character energy. So why does it happen? Why do we do this to ourselves? It often comes from fear of rejection, fear of being alone, fear of being seen as difficult or cold. But none of that fear is based in truth. The real truth is this: the right people will never be threatened by your boundaries. The right people will not only understand when you say no, they'll respect you more for it. And those who don't, they were never meant to sit in your front row. You need to start treating yourself like the prize you are. Would a diamond be placed in a bargain bin? Would an exclusive VIP pass be handed to just anyone? Of course not. So why are you treating your presence like it's up for grabs? Why are you giving people unlimited access to something so rare? You are the energy, the vibe, the force that changes the temperature of the room. But if you keep giving it away to anyone who asks, you'll end up drained, empty, and wondering why no one fills you back up. It's not selfish to pull back. It's not rude to say, I'm not available right now. It's not unkind to say, I need time for me. That's not cruelty. That's self-respect. That's clarity, and it's powerful. When you start to value yourself, when you treat your own time like it matters, when you stop responding out of guilt or obligation, you begin to shift the way people see you. You're no longer someone they assume will drop everything. You're someone they have to respect, to earn, to consider. Being kind and being accessible are not the same thing. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can be compassionate and still say no. You can love people and still put yourself first. In fact, that's the most powerful kind of love, the one that includes you in the equation. So stop showing up for people who wouldn't do the same for you. Stop trying to prove your worth through overgiving. You don't need to earn love by being the nicest person in the room. You need to own your space, walk in your worth, and let your absence speak just as loudly as your presence once did. Because when you're not always available, people start to notice how much they relied on you, and that's when your true value shines. Saying no is an act of self-respect, not rudeness. But somewhere along the way, society taught us that being agreeable is a virtue, that politeness should be prioritized over personal peace. Especially for women, the message has been loud and clear. Smile more, be nice, don't make waves, don't upset anyone. But here's the thing, constantly putting others first and never asserting your own boundaries doesn't make you kind. It makes you invisible, and you weren't born to be invisible. You weren't born to be a silent supporter in everyone else's story. You were born to be your own loud, bold, unapologetic lead, and that starts with boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They're not about pushing people away or isolating yourself. They're about clarity. They are the invisible lines you draw around your time, your energy, your mental peace. They tell people how to treat you. They tell the world what you're willing to allow and what you're not. Without boundaries, you leave yourself wide open, emotionally, physically, mentally, for anyone and everyone to come in and take what they want. And trust me, people will take. They will keep asking, keep demanding, keep expecting more until you finally reach a breaking point. But by then, you're already drained. You've already poured out so much that there's barely anything left for yourself. That's why boundaries are beautiful. They're not about shutting the world out. They're about choosing who gets access to you and under what conditions. Saying no doesn't mean you're being mean. It means you value your space. It means you're aware of your limits. It means you know what you can handle and what you can't. It's self-awareness in action. It's emotional maturity. And if someone can't handle your no, that's not your problem. It's their lack of respect for your autonomy. So many people struggle with this. We feel guilty for saying no. We feel like we owe people explanations, justifications, soft landings for their disappointment. But let me be clear, you don't owe anyone an excuse for protecting your peace. You don't need to sugarcoat your boundaries to make them easier to swallow. No is a complete sentence. And when you start saying it more often, something shifts. It's not just in how others see you, but in how you see yourself. You start to trust yourself more. You start to realize you don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to stretch yourself thin just to keep the peace. You deserve to take up space. You deserve to protect your energy. The fear of being seen as rude or cold is a trap. It keeps you stuck in people-pleasing mode. But here's the thing, constantly saying yes to others is often a no to yourself. Every time you agree to something you don't want to do, you're betraying your own needs. Every time you overextend yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you're sacrificing your own well-being. That's not kindness, that's self-neglect. Boundaries teach people how to treat you. If you never speak up, if you never express what works for you and what doesn't, you can't blame others for crossing lines they didn't even know were there. You have to take ownership of your space. You have to advocate for yourself. It doesn't make you difficult. It makes you powerful, and don't expect everyone to like it, because they won't. The people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will be the first to protest when you start drawing lines, but let them protest. Let them be uncomfortable. You're not here to manage other people's feelings. You're here to be whole, to be balanced, to be aligned with your truth. If someone truly cares about you, they'll respect your boundaries. They won't try to guilt you into doing things that drain you. They won't make you feel bad for choosing yourself. They'll understand that love isn't about constant sacrifice. It's about mutual respect. And if someone doesn't understand that, they were never really seeing you in the first place. They were seeing what you could do for them, and that's not love. That's convenience. Learning to say no is one of the most liberating things you can do for yourself. It's not a rejection of others. It's an affirmation of your own needs. You are allowed to put yourself first. You are allowed to prioritize your mental health. You are allowed to walk away from conversations, situations, and people who deplete you, and you don't have to justify that to anyone. Your peace is reason enough. Your sanity is reason enough. You are reason enough. Respect is earned, not given freely. This might sound harsh in a world where we're constantly told to be nice, stay humble, and treat everyone equally. But let's be honest, not everyone treats you the way you treat them. Not everyone deserves your trust, your kindness, your time, or your respect simply because they exist. That's not how the real world works. And if you keep handing out respect and loyalty like candy, you'll end up surrounded by people who expect everything and offer nothing in return. You need to stop confusing being respectful with being submissive. There's a difference. Real respect has depth, it's mutual, it's conscious, and it's earned through action, not appearance. When you walk into a room and automatically lower yourself just to be liked, just to seem friendly, you're not being kind, you're being forgettable. And you weren't made to be forgettable. You were made to own your space with quiet confidence or loud brilliance, whatever fits your energy, but you cannot keep giving away that energy to people who haven't earned it. You can't keep shrinking yourself, putting others on pedestals, and hoping that one day they'll treat you better if you're nice enough. Respect doesn't work that way. It's not a handout. It's a currency that holds value only when it's based on experience and truth. There's a reason we admire people who walk with certainty, who speak with conviction, who don't over-explain themselves to make others feel comfortable. It's not because they're arrogant. It's because they know who they are. And when you know who you are, you don't feel the need to prove it to everyone. That kind of self-respect commands external respect. When you respect yourself, you stop tolerating behavior that chips away at your peace. You stop entertaining people who talk down to you, who ignore your boundaries, who treat you like a backup plan. You start realizing that your time is sacred, your presence is a gift, and your energy should never be wasted on people who only show up when they need something. There's nothing wrong with giving people the benefit of the doubt, but make sure it doesn't become a pattern where you ignore red flags just because you want to see the good in someone. You can't keep forgiving behavior that disrespects your soul. You can't keep rewarding inconsistency with loyalty. That's not maturity. That's self-abandonment. And the more you do it, the more you teach people that they don't have to show up fully, they don't have to try, they don't have to care deeply, because you'll always be there, accepting less and giving more. You want real respect. Stop making it so easy for people to take advantage of your kindness. Let your standards speak before your words do. Let your silence be the answer when people cross the line. You don't have to yell. You don't have to explain. You just have to stop giving them access. Watch how quickly they notice. Watch how fast they shift when they realize your respect has to be earned, not expected. And if they don't shift, if they walk away or call you difficult, good. Let them. That's just proof that they were never really there for you to begin with. They were there for the version of you who never said no, the version who tolerated too much. The most powerful people are the ones who are selective with their energy. They know that not everyone deserves to sit at their table. They understand that being nice to everyone doesn't mean you have to allow everyone into your life. Being civil, being polite, being professional, that's basic. That's standard, but true respect, that's another level. That's reserved for those who show up with consistency, integrity, and genuine care. For those who value your presence and reciprocate your efforts. For those who don't take you for granted. You have every right to be discerning. You have every right to expect respect in return for what you give, and you don't need to feel guilty about it. You're not stuck. You're not powerless. The moment you stop handing out respect freely, the moment you stop seeking validation through overgiving, you reclaim your power. You teach the world how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. So treat yourself like someone who matters. Speak like someone who expects to be heard. Move like someone who knows their worth. Because when you start acting like you deserve respect, the world has no choice but to follow suit or fall away. You teach people how to treat you. Not by what you say, but by what you tolerate, by what you allow, by what you let slide. Every time you stay silent when someone disrespects you, you're giving them a silent green light. Every time you say it's okay, when it clearly isn't, you're training them to believe they can get away with it. People are always watching, maybe not with their eyes, but with their instincts. They test boundaries. They see how far they can push. And if you never push back, they stop seeing you as someone they need to respect. They start seeing you as someone who will always adjust, always bend, always accept less than what they give. It starts small. A joke that crosses the line, a favor that's really a demand, a conversation where your voice is talked over. You think maybe it's not worth making a scene, maybe if you just stay chill, things will smooth out. But what you don't realize is that these small allowances become patterns. They turn into expectations. Before you know it, you're the one people turn to when they need something last minute, when they need emotional labor, when they need a yes of person. Not because they respect you, but because you've taught them you'll always say yes. You've taught them that your time and comfort don't need to be considered. The truth is, your standards are the rules of engagement. When someone enters your life, whether in a personal or professional context, they're looking for cues. They're asking themselves, what can I get away with here? That may sound cynical, but it's reality. Human nature is built around self-interest and efficiency. If someone learns that they don't have to try hard, they won't. If someone learns that you'll tolerate being ignored, talked down to, or used, they'll keep doing it. Not necessarily because they're cruel, but because they've been allowed to, and that's why it's on you to set the tone. Setting boundaries doesn't mean being harsh or rude. It means having a quiet clarity that radiates through your behavior. It's the difference between saying, "I'm not okay with that," and hoping someone magically figures it out. You don't have to scream to be heard, but you do have to be firm. When someone treats you with disrespect, and you continue to engage like nothing happened, you're participating in your own mistreatment. The most powerful people are the ones who don't just talk about self-worth, they show it. Through their decisions, through the way they remove themselves from situations that don't serve them, through the way they protect their peace, even if it means disappointing others. A lot of people fear being seen as difficult. But what's really difficult is living a life where your needs are constantly overlooked, where your kindness is weaponized against you, where your silence becomes your prison. You don't need to become cold or closed off to teach people how to treat you. You just need to be consistent. When you say something matters to you, mean it. When someone crosses a line, address it. And when someone continues to disrespect you after being given the chance to do better, let them go. You deserve relationships, friendships, and environments where respect isn't something you have to beg for. It should be built into the dynamic, but you'll never find that if you keep staying in spaces that make you feel small. If you keep teaching people that you'll always be the one to understand, to forgive, to overextend, that kind of one-sided loyalty is exhausting. It doesn't lead to deeper connection. It leads to burnout and resentment. The longer you tolerate it, the more detached from your true self you become. There's nothing wrong with expecting reciprocity. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel seen, heard, and valued. And there's definitely nothing wrong with walking away from people who can't or won't offer that. You teach people how to treat you through every boundary you draw, every standard you uphold, and every time you choose self-respect over people pleasing, so stop giving passes to people who keep showing you they don't deserve one. Stop watering yourself down to keep others comfortable, because the moment you raise the standard, you raise the quality of every connection in your life. And that's when real respect begins. There is a massive difference between being liked and being respected, and understanding that difference can change the way you carry yourself forever. So many of us have been conditioned to believe that being liked is the goal, that if people approve of us, if they smile at us, if they speak well of us, then we're doing something right. But being liked is often shallow. It's often about surface-level comfort, about not challenging the status quo, about saying the right thing, wearing the right mask, fitting into a mold that doesn't disturb anyone's expectations. Respect, on the other hand, is deeper. It's about being seen for who you truly are, and being valued for it, even if it makes people uncomfortable. Being respected means people know not to cross certain lines. It means your presence has weight. It means you're not easy to ignore, not easy to manipulate, not easy to dismiss. When you aim to be liked, you start editing yourself. You shrink your opinions, your voice, your power just to keep things smooth. You become agreeable to a fault. You say yes when your gut is screaming no. You laugh at things that aren't funny. You stay quiet when you should speak up, all because you don't want to ruffle feathers. But here's what no one tells you. chasing approval is a full-time job with no real payoff. Because the moment you stop performing, the moment you reveal your boundaries, your standards, your truth, those same people who liked you for being agreeable will turn on you. Why? Because you've broken the unspoken deal. You're no longer easy, you're no longer convenient, you're no longer a mirror for their comfort. Respect doesn't come from pleasing people, it comes from standing firm. It comes from showing up with integrity, even when it's inconvenient. It comes from making choices that honor your values, not other people's expectations. And yes, sometimes that means being misunderstood. Sometimes that means being labeled as too much, or too blunt, or not a team player. Let them label you, because those labels are often the words people use when they can't control you, when they can't put you in a box, when they realize you're not here to play small. Being respected means having the courage to say what you think, even if it's not popular. It means setting boundaries and not budging when people try to guilt you into crossing them. It means knowing your worth so deeply that you don't feel the need to prove it in every room you walk into. And it also means being okay with not being everyone's favorite, because the truth is, the most respected people in any room are not the most liked. They're the most certain. They're the ones who stand tall in their truth, who aren't afraid to say no, who don't crumble under pressure just to maintain harmony. The obsession with being liked is draining. It makes you a chameleon, constantly changing colors to suit the environment. But you weren't born to blend in. You were born to stand out, to be bold, to have a presence that commands attention. Not because you're loud, but because you're rooted. Because people can feel that you're not trying to win them over. You're simply being yourself. And that kind of authenticity is rare. That's what people remember. That's what earns you respect. Respect lasts longer than charm. It goes beyond personality. It goes beyond whether people enjoy your company. It's about what you bring to the table. It's about how you handle pressure, how you stand up for yourself, how you carry your name and your word. And when people respect you, they speak differently about you when you're not in the room. They don't mess with your boundaries. They don't test your patience. They know that your time is valuable, that your presence is earned, not assumed. You have to decide what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. Do you want to be remembered as someone who was nice and agreeable? Or do you want to be remembered as someone who had standards, who stood up for themselves, who taught others how to show up with integrity? Being liked is easy. Being respected takes courage. But once you choose respect, once you choose to live in your truth without apology, you'll start to attract the right people. People who don't just like the version of you that's easy. They respect the whole, unedited, powerful version of you. And that's the version the world needs. There's a moment in everyone's life when you realize that not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Not everyone who checks in on you wants what's best for you. Not everyone who claps when you win is genuinely happy for you. Some people stick around only when you're convenient, only when you're useful, only when you're giving more than you're getting. These are the same people who go quiet when you need them, who disappear when things get tough, who get distant the moment you stop catering to their needs. That's not love, that's not loyalty, that's not friendship. That's emotional convenience, and it's time you stop calling those people your circle. One of the biggest reasons people get drained emotionally is because they're holding on to relationships that should have been released a long time ago. We hold on out of habit, out of history, out of hope. We tell ourselves they've always been around, or maybe they'll change, or they don't mean any harm. But deep down, you know when someone doesn't feel right. You know when someone's energy is off. You can sense when their support is performative and not real. Yet we keep them around because we're scared of being alone, or we don't want to seem dramatic, or we just want to avoid the discomfort of confrontation. But what's more uncomfortable than that? Living your life surrounded by people who secretly root against you, who envy your growth, who compete with you quietly while pretending to clap. That's a slow emotional death. You owe it to yourself to be selective. You owe it to yourself to protect your space. You don't need 1,000 people in your corner. You just need a few real ones, people who correct you with love, not judgment. People who celebrate you in public and support you in private. People who don't just show up when things are fun, but also when life is messy, raw, and heavy. The kind of people who ask how you're really doing and stay long enough to hear the truth. The ones who don't make everything about them. The ones who don't get jealous when you start leveling up. The ones who don't feel entitled to your time and energy just because they've known you for years. Loyalty isn't measured in length of time. It's measured in depth of connection. It's okay to outgrow people. It's okay to realize that someone you once loved, once trusted, once leaned on, is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. Growth creates distance, not because you're better than them, but because your direction has changed. You're no longer vibrating on the same level. You don't need to explain that. You don't need to justify choosing peace over people. You don't need to feel guilty for walking away from relationships that only thrive when you're dimming your light. If someone only supports you when you're struggling, but feels threatened when you start shining, that's not support. That's control, and you're allowed to walk away from that. The biggest lesson: stop confusing access with importance. Just because someone has been in your life for a long time doesn't mean they deserve a front row seat. Just because someone reaches out every now and then doesn't mean they're invested. Stop lowering your standards to keep certain people in your life. Start observing more and engaging less. Start noticing who listens when you speak, who remembers the little things, who shows up when you don't have anything to give. That's your real circle. Everyone else is just noise. And when you do let go of the wrong ones, you make room for the right ones. For people who aren't intimidated by your strength. For people who hold space for your softness. For people who don't need to be begged to treat you right. You start attracting relationships rooted in reciprocity and not dependency. You start thriving in environments where you feel safe to be your full, complex self. But that only happens when you get honest with yourself about who's really in your corner, when you stop mistaking presence for loyalty, when you stop thinking you have to keep toxic people around just because you once called them family or friends. Letting go isn't cruel, it's clarity, it's courage, and it's the highest form of self-respect. You are not obligated to shrink yourself for anyone's comfort. You are not required to carry dead weight just to avoid hurting feelings. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is, and once you start doing that, you'll realize you are never asking for too much. You are just asking the wrong people. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself, for protecting your energy, for walking away from relationships, situations, and environments that no longer serve your peace. It's not your job to constantly make other people comfortable while you suffer in silence. You've spent enough of your life justifying your boundaries, softening your voice, shrinking your presence just to avoid being misunderstood or labeled. But at some point, you have to realize that your life is not a public debate. You are not here to be universally accepted. You are here to live fully, unapologetically, and in alignment with who you are, not who others want you to be. People will call you selfish the moment you stop catering to their convenience, the moment you say no instead of yes, the moment you prioritize rest over showing up for everyone else. But you need to understand something. Putting yourself first is not selfish, it's survival. It's wisdom. It's recognizing that your well-being is your responsibility, and no one else is going to advocate for it unless you do. The people who truly love and respect you will never make you feel bad for setting boundaries. They won't need long explanations. They won't guilt you into bending, because love, real love, doesn't thrive on control. It thrives on freedom and respect. We've been conditioned, especially as women or empaths or caretakers, to think that being selfless is a virtue. That if we give enough, love enough, do enough, we'll finally be seen, appreciated, understood. But the truth is, overgiving doesn't lead to respect. It leads to exhaustion. It leads to resentment. You can pour into others until there's nothing left of you, and they'll still ask for more. Not because they're cruel, but because you've trained them to expect it. You've taught them that your time, your presence, your love come with no limits, and that's where the imbalance begins. That's where your peace starts to unravel. Choosing yourself means understanding that not everyone is going to like your growth. Not everyone is going to celebrate your healing, your confidence, your newfound clarity. Some people liked you better when you were unsure, when you were more available, when you were easier to manipulate. Your elevation threatens their comfort. Your boundaries remind them of their lack of accountability, and that's not your problem to solve. You are not responsible for how others feel about your journey. You are responsible for staying true to it. You'll notice the shift. You'll start to feel lighter, quieter, more grounded when you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. When you stop seeking approval from those who were never meant to understand your path. You'll have fewer people around, but the connections will be deeper, realer. You'll stop feeling like you're constantly performing. You'll stop guessing your every decision, and that's when life begins to feel like yours again. Not a collection of obligations you inherited from trying to please everyone else. Sometimes choosing yourself looks like declining an invitation without a reason. Sometimes it looks like staying home instead of showing up for people who never show up for you. Sometimes it looks like cutting ties with someone who drains your spirit, no matter how long they've been in your life. And sometimes it looks like standing alone for a while until the right people arrive. That's okay. Silence is not loneliness. Distance is not cruelty. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors you lock when someone has proven they can't be trusted with access to your peace. The moment you start honoring yourself, the world begins to reflect that. Opportunities feel more aligned. Relationships feel more authentic. Your days feel less heavy, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you are no longer betraying yourself just to keep others happy. You are no longer explaining away your discomfort. You are no longer waiting for someone else to give you permission to take up space. So the next time someone questions your choices, your boundaries, your growth, remember, you don't owe them a paragraph. A full sentence, not even a word. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Your healing is not a group discussion. The only approval you ever needed was your own, and once you give that to yourself, completely, unapologetically, and without hesitation, you become unstoppable. Not because you've become harder, but because you've finally become whole.